Yeah, my name is Maurice Jones. I'm running for District 2 on the Omaha City Council. Um, I was raised by my beautiful mother, April, right here in the heart of North Omaha. I grew up off of 36 in Kansas, 28th in Benny, and 35th in Hamilton. She raised me along with my two siblings. My mom worked hard as a single mom, born deaf, to provide a life for her children. No matter what she did, no matter how hard she worked, we still struggled. And even as a kid, I never understood how someone could work all their life to keep their head above water, but unable to achieve that baseline of comfort that this country promises all of its residents. And that's the reason why I ran for city council 8 years ago as a high school student. And that's the reason I'm running again now. And it's that promise. Yeah, I went for elementary, I went to St. Richard's. Then I moved to Holy Name. I just popped all over the place. And then eventually I ended up graduating from Omaha North High. Omaha is cool if you really know how to move in Omaha. Like, there's so much potential to really elevate yourself and to be connected to some of the most powerful people that can change your life. And that is an asset that this city has, and it's sad to see so many young people want to leave because they think that there's no opportunity here. I think there's a lot of opportunity. It might not be the specific kind of opportunity they're looking for, like the fast life of like big cities of California and New York type, but the state of California rather. But Omaha that's why I love Omaha. It's so unique. It's so many different neighborhoods that have a very unique history, and I just want to be a part of it, and I want to be a part of the change. Well, certainly the fact that as a young person, my mom worked so hard to provide a life for her children, but no matter how hard she worked, no matter what she did, she was unable to achieve that baseline of comfort that, like I said earlier, this country promises all of its residents. And but a second from that, I took a trip down to the South as a high school student, second-year high school student, and I learned about the 1960s in a way that wasn't taught to me in school. I learned about the young people and how they went out and protest for suffrage in place of their parents, because they were told that if you go out and protest for your rights, you're going to get fired, and the conviction that the kids had about themselves when they were confronted with Bull Connor, the public safety commissioner, when they were confronted by attack dogs and water cannons and state troopers, it just made me want to come back to this community as a young person and be a part of the change that I so desperately wanted to see. How did we go from the 60s to where we are now? And to see Obama speak at the 50th commemoration of Bloody Sunday in front of the Edmund Pettus Bridge, a bridge named after a prominent figure within the KKK, a black man, first president ever, speaking in front of that bridge, it just changed my life. And it put me on this path of the work I'm doing now. Because I understand that that's the only way forward, is our political action is what moves the sort of change that we need in this community, and we just got to get back to that. We need targeted policy that addresses the affordable housing question, because I don't think a lot of people understand what affordable housing is. Affordable housing in a general sense is, we want market rate units. We want houses that are, affordable for who? This is a really wide open thing, and it's like, for me, what we need to really be aggressive in is having targeted policies that address affordable housing. Vinebrook is a problem. They're an Ohio-based company. They have a large portfolio across the United States, but in Omaha, they have 250 rental units, and 2/3 of their property exists right here in North Omaha. In 2020 and 2021, home sales went up 80% because of their activity. And what they did was they took advantage of people's plight. They took advantage of people who were suffering from job loss, from death in families, from COVID-19, and they came in with cash. They waived inspections. They outbid families that were looking to buy a home for the first time, and it made it impossible for them to achieve that. Vinebrook can easily inflate the housing market if they decided tomorrow to increase their rent by $500 per property, easily inflate the market. Those sort of targeted policies that say to Bolingbrook, no, you're not allowed to be here in our yard, in our backyard. Bulk home buying is unacceptable. You have to have a local landlord that we can communicate with to make sure that these homes are habitable and they're not slumlord, conditions. Nobody deserves to live in those conditions in the United States of America, the wealthiest country in the history of the world. But beyond that, we need to focus on self-sufficiency, because as this community shouldn't be pigeonholed in just affordable housing. We have to have that growth mindset of self-sufficiency, of business innovation, because when you give people the reins to control their own financial destiny, their future, they can really move how they want. They don't have to worry about getting pulled over by the police because their tags are expired and that, go into something, It's just, we really have to be intentional about radically growing our own so we can allow people to navigate in a way that the system doesn't, that they're not system impacted. Public safety is important, and when I go out and knock on the doors of people that live in this community, they say public safety is their priority and their concern. They're concerned that if they call the police, that they're not going to get there in time because we're short officers, 100 and some officers. I'm not in favor at this moment of any sort of budget cuts or restructuring or taking away money from the police department as it stands, because we know that when that happens, the communities that are impacted the most by it are the marginalized communities. We know that when we cut the police budget, that our specialty units like the homicide unit, that the robbery unit, child victim sexual assault, all these really different important units that focus on a range of crime aren't able to perform because they have to take them off of their specialty assignments to go back on the street to take radio calls. That is the very first priority of the police department, is to make sure they have officers to take those calls. And we need to make sure that we aggressively address the shortage that we're experiencing as a city, because when things get tough, people who are wealthy can hire private security, but when things get really tough in communities like this, it's easy to victimize, further victimize the community. And I know that there are some tough things happening right now with law enforcement, and there's a demand for reform, and we need to focus on that. But we have to do it in a way that makes sense. We live in a red state. We have a Republican mayor. We have a council that is very pro-police. We have to be realistic so we're not misleading people, so that we don't give promises that get swept under the rug after Election Day. But we have to focus back on how we really go about reform. And it is in our power. Our vote is our power. And I alone, as a council member, can't go against the system of the police alone. But we need the additional support of the police. When the election's over and I win, I need the constant support and the showing up of the community to get things done. And I'm just being realistic. Economic development is one of those words that I think a lot of people don't understand what it means. Historically, the state and the city has approached economic development through workforce development and tax incentives. The state has pivoted, and now they focus on entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship in this state, small businesses, makes up Nebraska economy. It is the bulk of what the Nebraska economy is. And we have to, as a community, understand that in North Omaha, there is no deficit, that every skill, that every trade, that every idea exists right here in this community to fix our circumstances. Nobody is coming to save us. So we have to focus on radically growing our own. We have to focus on growing businesses and creating products and services that we can market to this community, but market to the broader community of Omaha, because that's a lot of money that we can tap into. That's important. But in order to have a meaningful progress on the business development and innovation side, we have to bring these systems together. We have to coordinate these systems better. We can't keep trying to come up with new committees, new ideas, new programs. These things exist. We need to coordinate them better so that people can start their LLC, but then go from that to something midlife, something greater than even that, so that they can create generational wealth for themselves. That is what true sustainable long-term economic development looks like. And we've seen record investment, but we need to make sure that whatever is built, if it's a capital asset like a nice shiny building, that it truly benefits the people that live in that neighborhood, and not a nonprofit that is amassing a tremendous amount of property. And we really have to make sure it goes back to the community. I know that Cheryl West and a number of community organizers were, they were monumental in spearheading the getting rid of the Superfund sites at some point. And we need to continue to make sure that our soil is safe and clean for our kids. And we need to also, address any other environmental concerns that directly impact the quality of life of the residents in this community. I'm not a subject matter expert on this, and I think that certainly I'm happy to speak to the people that know more about the specific needs of this community as it relates to the environment and sustainability. But the threshold for me is, does it harm? Is it actively harming the community? And if so, we need to aggressively address it. And if it's hurting, if it's hurting the planet, we shouldn't. We should shift gears and look at what, But it all has to be scientific and facts-based, evidence-based for me, and that's what I rely on. Well, we know that the distance from here and Amy Melton's district is measured by more than just miles. A 15-minute drive to West Omaha, where her district is, it's apparent that there's more than miles that define these two communities. When she was asked on the KTV what are her priorities for her term, she said that speed racing and package thieves. In North Omaha, that would be incredible if that was the priorities of this district. But, a stone's throw away from District 2, you have some of the largest Fortune 500 companies in the world, but we have the worst medium household income. We're known for our world-class health institutions like UNMC and Creighton and the Catholic and all those fine institutions, but we have the worst health outcomes. If you live in this community, your life expectancy is 10 years less on average, and it's unacceptable. Certainly, City Council needs more help. I mean, the City of Omaha needs more help. We need to declare it a public health emergency. We need to treat it like they do when Ebola touched, when COVID touched. We need a sort of public health response to what's happening in this community. But we have to better coordinate the systems. That's why I propose a More Life initiative that coordinates all these different systems, because we know that Charles Drew is a great provider, but they have a long line. And so how do we increase capacity so that we can support more alternative health options for our community, holistic health? We know that, the mainstream health isn't necessarily healthy, for American people. So we have to better navigate what does health actually mean? Because, just a bunch of pills and all that ain't going to fix it. That's just a Band-Aid to the bigger problem that we are confronted with. But absolutely, the mayor is a critical person when we talk about the budget. In fact, the mayor creates the budget and sets the priority of the budget. We don't do it. We can go back and forth with the mayor on line items, and we can ultimately decide not to support the budget, but the mayor can override it if it's just 4 council members that say no, and then it would require a 5th person to override the mayor's veto. So this is a historical development of our city government. In the 1950s, the City of Omaha residents called for a charter convention that restructured the city government, and now we're considered a home rule charter, which means that to a certain extent of the law, we are allowed to govern with a lot of our own affairs and within the city incorporated limits. So we have a mayoral council form of government. That's where I'm getting at. And the mayor has a tremendous amount of influence over the budget, but we need to have a council member that understands that you got to work with the mayor and be able to have one-on-one meetings with the mayor so you can talk about the priorities for your district, because everybody has 7 council members that have all their own priorities. And that's why the mayor has so much power over that, because we wouldn't get any, it'd just be a lot to bring all these different interest groups together to create a budget. Just let the mayor do it. It's really backward. I feel like we should have more authority over the budgeting process, and so that we can actually make sure the investments are where they need to be. Yeah, there are so many organizations that are doing this work, and with Metro Transit now having for the first time an elected body, they have a tremendous amount of influence over the development of Omaha's transportation. I personally wish that that this was something that was under the roof of the within the city. Most major metropolitan cities actually directly have a say in their transit, but I think that a lot of our local leadership tries to, put them out so they don't have to really address it. But we have to work in tandem with with these different entities to make sure that we have a transit policy, that transit investments that truly benefit the community. We have to work with the Forever North. We have to work with Spark, and we have to work with the people that are redesigning the social connectedness projects, that like Manny Cook, a great planning person and very knowledgeable, and we need to look to those folks to like I said, we got to coordinate the system. I'm not going to offer answers to specific, because really it's not going to, anybody that tries to give you an answer other than the fact that we got to coordinate and work with existing partners, because we don't really control the transit, They literally have an elected board now, so they have their own priorities. So we got to make sure we're talking to them and not being siloed into. It just doesn't make sense that we have a elected independent body that addresses Omaha transit problems, but then it's a city government. It's just these things have to be these things. It's a mess. It's a mess.
As far as transit,
That's just their way of saying, "Oh, voters now decide elected by. We don't have to be accountable anymore." It's just unacceptable. Yeah, absolutely. I have been doing some research on this concept of a night mayor. I think that West Omaha, South Omaha, and North Omaha should have a night mayor that is directly linked to the city of Omaha, because there's a whole nighttime economy that's not tapped to the maximum. We have to have a night mayor that can help develop Omaha's nightlife, because it is huge capital potential there that our community can benefit from. A night mayor would be a person that coordinates events, that they sit down, they work with entertainment people, and they say, well, how do we really develop Omaha's nightlife? How do we develop our culture and our entertainment? Like, these things are necessary, and things are not just happening during the day. Nighttime is where the people are really just out, just having fun. And how do we as a city capture that momentum and that? And I think we need a night mayor, each city council member, each district. Yeah, because I'm much more practical. I'm not like a wild guy.
You don't be in the club.
No, but when I do, I appreciate it. But well, with Trump's irresponsible mass firings and cuts to critical government programs, means that we can't count on the federal government to protect us. And with Trump's demands that politicians all across the country, pledge allegiance to him, means that we can't count on the state either. So when I think about this DEI, we really have to be creative in how we move forward. It's going to be really tough for DEI initiatives. There's going to be tough to label things like Black Media Trust that supports Black media organizations, because in this climate and in this red state, it's just it is very concerning. But for me, I understand that our history as Black people is one of self-sufficiency, not self-deprecating compromises. And when we really dig into that and follow that like Bible and convict as a sort of conviction about ourselves, we don't have to wait for opportunities to come from a white majority organization that perhaps maybe doesn't want us there. We create the opportunities that we need in our community for our own, for us to thrive, for us to get ahead, to save money, to create wealth for ourselves and pass them down to the next generation. It's not a sustainable thing long term. Never was. I think that it's well intentioned, but diversity, equity, inclusion, it's not a long term sustainable thing. Well, I was born in 1998, and the median household income, which is the average that our families are making across the board, was $50,000. In 2025, the average is $48,000. That's the average that our families are making across the board. In 26 years, we have had leadership that has, whether official or unofficial offices, presided over decline. Voters in this election have to ask themselves, do we want to go back to past leadership that has collectively, whether official or unofficial offices, presided over decline? Or do we finally decide, being sick and tired of being sick and tired? If we keep voting for names that we're familiar with, if we keep voting for people that collectively have presided over that decline and the worst childhood poverty rates, in fact, the same rate of kids from 26 years ago are living in childhood poverty. Our kids are getting born in poverty. Or we can elect somebody that will use this next 4 years as an opportunity to build the foundation of a District 2 cultural and economic renaissance. Do we go with those candidates, or do we go with someone that understands that in North Omaha there is no deficit, that every skill, that every trait, that every idea that will fix our circumstances exists right here? We need leadership that understands that, because nobody's coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. It's just like when you're on an airplane, the oxygen mask come down, you better put yours on first. Or the people you got to help, like your baby or your elderly person, they're going to be unconscious, and you are too. So we really, really need to think about what candidates offer. Not names, legacy names. Not names that have reappeared on the ballot after every election. It's going to take an outsider. And I'm that outsider. I'm the young guy that people are curious about, saying, well, where has he been? I've been right here in this community, and I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I hope that I'll get your support. Thank you.